Hi there, I'm Dan Martell, technology entrepreneur, investor, and creator of SaaS Academy. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to get your product built without feeling like you've been taken hostage by your development team. And be sure to stay to the end where I share a link for you to get my weekly sync process so you can not only manage your team better, but also ensure that your developers are actually executing on the features you need to get built. So maybe you're feeling frustrated that you've hired an external dev team and they've been working and the scope's got out of control and it's costing you more and more money, or you hired a developer off of Upwork and you can't really seem to get a hold of him. He's not communicating. He's kind of like here and not there. You're kind of unsure if he's actually doing the work or if he's just taking his time. You're still paying him. Things are getting built, fixed, but it's not moving to your liking. Well, I'm going to share with you some strategies to help you feel absolutely certain that the money you're investing in the product is getting put to good use, that you don't feel like if you had to swap out this developer or honestly, if anything happened to them, that you wouldn't have to, feel totally stranded, or if you needed to bring somebody else to augment the team, you could do that quickly if all of a sudden you got a big customer order, etc. I've started off my career as a programmer, so technically speaking, I've never had this challenge. I've coached many entrepreneurs, non-technical founders on how to deal with this, and a lot of the strategy I'm going to teach you with today came from that process. But I will say from a financial point of view, and maybe you can relate to this as well, is I'm not an accountant. I did not go to school. I do not have an MBA. I've never graduated from university. All of my understanding of financials came through just building, buying, investing in companies. But what I did maps to the same process as your development team. The first thing is I made sure that all of the financial systems, and this is back, going over 15 years ago, was up in a server. Today you would use something like QuickBooks Online. But I made sure that we consolidated, that I had multiple people involved in the process so no one person could take me out. And I ensured that I brought in experts to help me understand and teach myself at a high enough level how I can get through understanding the reports and also ensure that no one person could cause me challenges. So that's what I'm going to walk you through as it relates to your developers. Step number one, Cloudbase source repository. Now, if you don't know, you should ask, but all great developers, and really any development team, should have the code, the programming language that you built your product in up in the internet, in the cloud. The cloud is such a weird word, and essentially up on a server. And some of the tools, and I'll link them below, are sites like GitHub that allows you to not only have everything in one spot, but all developers can contribute to it. You can deal with conflicts. And as a business owner, you can actually see the change log of all the different changes that are being made in real time. Honestly, if every day you wanted to go check out the changelog and see what's being contributed or submitted to the code repository, you could see that. So that's number one, is you got to get your code up in the cloud and monitor it, ideally on a daily basis, to make sure your developers are actually pushing new changes to the repository. Number two, centralized access control. So when it comes to authentication or logins, you need a place where all of these logins go there. You have your administrative accounts on your servers, in your source repository, all the different developer tools that you might be using. So the best way to do that is to use a product that allows you to consolidate all those logins, but then share them to different people or roles or groups of people, like your development team, so that they can use those logins, especially if you don't have the ability to assign new user access to it. So tools like a 1Password, Team Edition, or many others. You can look online. I'm going to link some below so that you can kind of see my favorite ones. But doing that allows you to never feel like, hey, if somebody got hit by a bus, I don't even have the login to the server. If I found somebody else to actually help me out, I wouldn't even tell them how to get access to the system. You need to take all of that out of the minds of your development team and put it up into a centralized access control solution. Step three, documentation reviews. Now, I'm going to ask you to ask your developers to document their changes. At a minimum, when they're contributing new code to the source repository, they should be writing some level of description. They should be commenting their code. But I think it just makes it easier if you just start off as a culture and say, hey, every 2 weeks we're going to sit down and review the documentation. And this could be everything from the database design. This could be through some workflow diagrams. This could be from pure code documentation. But I think it not only ensures that it's getting done right, but it also lets your development team feel like there's a reason for writing all this documentation so that somebody's going to see it, and you can also give them feedback and say, I don't really understand this, can you explain it to me? But that way you know if you brought somebody else in, they could get ramped up very quickly because all the documentation is up to date and accurate. Number 4, pay for code reviews. Now this is the one, I kind of stack them based on absolutely must to more advanced things. And pay for code reviews, I know you're like, I'm already paying for the developer, Dan. Why would I actually have to pay somebody else to review his work? Well, the truth is just like in the financial example I told you at the beginning, I need somebody else that I trust to do a review. And the good news is there's so many incredibly talented programmers that might charge you $300 an hour that you might not be able to afford to write your code. And there's, trust me, there's way less expensive options. But to have somebody in and just make it part of the process and say, hey, every month I'm hiring a guy for 4 hours to come in, review your code, give you some feedback, give me some feedback on how we're building things, the frameworks, are we building an extensible model? Like, is it good programming code? And that way, for a few hours, a few $100, you're going to feel comfortable that it's being built right. You're going to have a second pair of eyes on the code base, and you'll know if all the other stuff I already suggested is being followed. So paying somebody else for a code review, especially, you can get it for free if you build an advisory board. I've got a video below on how to put that together so you can watch that. But having somebody come into your business, look at the code, give you feedback on a monthly basis is an incredible idea to never feel like your dev team's doing things wrong, or if they bounced and left, that all of a sudden some new person's going to come in and go, holy moly, you've got a spaghetti code, a rat's nest of features that really don't make any sense. You just need somebody else to look it over. Number 5, succession planning. So the best way to build it into the culture so it doesn't catch somebody off guard, because the truth is if somebody's actually writing code and being good, the last thing you want to do is say, hey, let's talk about who should take over your role. The way I think about it is, as a business, you should just build succession planning into the way you operate. So that means for you as a CEO, your marketing person, whoever else you have on the team, you should always ask yourself, what happens if somebody has a baby, gets injured, gets sick, whatever it is, takes another job? And look, no harm, no foul. We just need to plan for this. And ideally on a quarterly basis, you're kind of just reviewing that and saying, you know what, from a marketing point, if something happened for a month, we would just transition the load, or we'd hire this contracting company. And then from a development point of view, well, we would probably have to work with this contractor that we met. So why don't we just put the documentation in place so that we can transition that? So just the idea of talking about succession planning, not specifically for your developer or your dev team, but just broadly speaking for your business, is going to help you get the same result without isolating an individual. So very important, get everything documented, ensure that we always pass the bus test. What happens if somebody gets hit by a bus? And then that way you'll sleep better at night. Number 6, continuous integration, or what's called CI. So essentially the concept is simple, is anytime somebody submits code to the source repository, up in the cloud, it builds the code to the, it goes to staging first, so everything it needs to actually take the code, build it, deploy it to your staging server. Then you ideally would go in there, make sure the features are good, everything's fun, and then you deploy it to production. So same thing, but what happens is it automates that process, so you know that just the fact that if you needed to scale up your web servers or scale up your database infrastructure, the continuous integration process is going to keep track of dependencies so you never feel hostage to even just the infrastructure. There's the code that runs on the servers, but then there's your server configuration for your different environments. Developers usually build on their local environment, then they push it to codes repository. That pulls it into staging. Staging is where you test stuff, and then that gets pushed out to production where your customers interact with it. So having that automatically deploy, it's what it's called, continuous deployment, will allow you to feel comfortable that not only is the code kind of centralized and documented and well built through the steps 1 to 5, but now all of a sudden the server infrastructure and the configuration and just deploying new changes is automated. It's going to make you feel super, it's an advanced thing, so you're going to be like, man, we got CI, we got continuous deployments. But the truth is if you haven't done 1 to 5, start there. At some point, somebody on the team is going to bring it up because it's just a great best practice for you to really mature your development process. So quick recap. Step number 1, cloud-based source repository. Number 2, centralized access control. Step 3, documentation reviews. Number 4, pay for code reviews. Number 5, succession planning. Number 6, continuous integration, or what's called CI. As I mentioned at the beginning, I want to share with you the weekly sync framework. It's below in the description, below this video. You can click the link to download that for yourself. I'm going to go over a bunch of things that I do every week with my team, but specifically things like the scorecard, so you know what aspects to measure on each core function of your business, the customer headline, so you can actually have a place to bring forward some wins that your rest of your team may not even be aware of, and things that they're building and changing. And then also, I'm going to encourage you to rate every meeting so that every person feels like they have the opportunity to voice their concern if they're on a meeting that they shouldn't be on, or if it's not adding 100% value for them. These are 30 to 45 minute, incredibly valuable, must-do meetings. You can click the link below in the descriptions to download your copy. If you like this video, be sure to click the like button below, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. What are you doing in your dev process to ensure that it's just humming and rocking? I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Yeah, do that again.
Yeah.